everyone. Today I am going to discuss the 23rd question of database management system. Let's see the question. Here's the question set 23, but the scenario is same as in the question set 16. From question set 16 up to this question, I have discussed the questions related to the same scenario. So in this question also, the scenario is same as in the question set 16. So in the first part of this question set, we have to find the lowest mark obtained for single subjects in the first term. So in this question, I am going to use subqueries to find the lowest mark. So let's see. Here's the answer for the first question. So first of all, I have applied the minimal function for the mark column, because in the question we have to get the lowest mark for the single subject. First of all, I have applied the minimal function to the mark column to get the minimum value of the selected column. I have selected the table, exam mark record table, and I have applied a condition. The condition is the exam term ID in mark record table should equal to the data in this subquery. So the first subquery is I have get the exam term table. I have get the exam term table, and the condition is the first term. So the result of this query is the first term results will be appear here, and I have joined these tables by using a subquery by using the keyword in. That means the exam ID, we will get the results corresponding to the exam ID, which is equal to the term ID in this term table. So that's the meaning of these subqueries. And I have applied another condition, that is the subject ID in the exam mark record table. Subject ID in the exam mark record table should equal to the ID in this query. ID in this subquery. So in this in the last subquery, this is the last subquery. In that I have applied another condition. The subject name should equal to the Sinhala language and literature. So the results of this query is the results are equal to this Sinhala language results will be appear in the by running this query. But in this query also the results will be appear which are equal to the subject ID in subject, which are equal to the subject ID in student exam mark record table. So that's the query which I used to get the answer for the first question. I'm going to run this. So here you can see this is the least mark obtained by the student for the first term Sinhala language and literature. For that I have used subqueries. Now I'm going to discuss the second question. In the second question, we have to find the details of the students who got the lowest marks in the first term Sinhala subject. In this question, we have to get the it also like in the first question. First, we have to get the lowest mark, and we have to get the corresponding student's detail for the lowest mark. So let's see. So here I have already get the least mark for the single subject in the first term. So this is the result we got from the first question. In this question we have to get the details. So here I have already get the results for the first question. That means here's the answer for the minimum mark obtained by the student for the first term Sinhala language. Now I'm going to get the student details corresponding to this mark. For that I'm making this as a subquery. So here I'm making this query as a subquery, and I'm going to get the student table. So first I'm going to get the student table corresponding to this mark. So let's see. So here I have get the student table. I have select all columns from the student table, and I have inner join the exam mark record table and subject table, exam term table to the student table. Next, I have add some conditions because in the question we have to get the students mark for the first term Sinhala language. So here I have applied those conditions, and I have selected the mark column, and I have get the mark column, and it should equal to the minimum value which will obtain from this sub query. So you can see here's the query for this second question. Here's the query for the second question. So here in this part using subqueries, first I have get the minimum value obtained by the student for the Sinhala language and first term Sinhala language and literature. For that I have used subqueries. So you can see first I have get the minimum value corresponding to the first term and the Sinhala language. Next, in this part I have get the student table, and I have joined the tables which I want to get the students details. So here are the tables. I have first get the student table, and I have joined the mark record table, next subject table, exam term table, and term table to the student table. So I have joined all the tables. Next, I have applied some conditions because in question we want to get the first term Sinhala language mark. So I have get the conditions, and in this condition, in here I have get the mark column from the mark record table, and it should equal to the data which come from this sub query. So this is the query for the second question. Now I am going to run this. You can see here's the result for the above query, but in the question we want to get some particular details, so I will apply those details to here. So here you can see I have get some particular details which are students index number, students first name, last name, and their mark, subject name, and the term name. Like that I have get some particular details. So now I'm going to run this. So you can see here are the details of the students who got the least mark for the Sinhala language in the first term. So now I'm going to discuss the next question. In the third question, what's the lowest mark obtained in the second term science subject? So the third question is also like in the first question, only the conditions are different. So let's see. Here's the query for the third question. In here also we have to find the least mark obtained by the students. Because of that I have used the minimum function. By using minimum function to a selected column, we can get the minimum value of that column. So here I have applied the minimum value for the mark column, so I can get the minimum value of the mark. Next, I have get the exam record table, and I have get the exam term ID in the mark record table, and it should equal to the exam term ID in this subquery. So in this subquery I have said to get the exam term ID of the second term and second term exam ID. So it should equal to the term ID in here. So that's the subquery, and I have applied another subquery. In that subquery in this subquery I have told to get the science subject ID which is equal to the science subject, and it should equal to the subject ID which is coming from the exam mark record table. So this is the subquery, and here's the query for this third question. Now I am going to run this. So you can see this is the least mark obtained by the student for the second term science subject. To get this minimum value I have used subqueries. So here are the subqueries I have used. Now I am going to discuss the fourth question. In the fourth question, we have to get the minimum mark obtained for the subject of mathematics in the term examination which is held on this date. So it is like the other questions, some different conditions. So let's see. Here's the query for the fourth question. It is also like in the previous questions. First, I have get the minimum value of the mark column. and I have selected student exam mark record table, and I have get the exam term ID. So in this sub query, first I have get the exam date, which is first I have get the term ID, which is corresponding to this exam date. So in this sub query, the term ID should equal to the exam term ID in the mark record table. And the second sub-query, I have get the subject ID, which is corresponding to the mathematics. So that's the second query, sub-query. Now I'm going to run this through. You can see here's the least mark obtained by the student for the mathematics subject, which is held on this date. So here's the query for the fourth question. In the fifth question, we have to get the details of the students who obtained the minimum mark for the subject mathematics in the term examination held on this date. So, in the previous question, we have already calculated, we have already get the minimum mark for the mathematics which held on this date. In this question, we have to get the student details corresponding to this mark. For that, I am making this query this query as a sub-query, and now I'm going to get the students details. Before getting the students details, I'm going to join the table. So let's see. So here you can see I have joined the tables, and so here's the part which I added now. So in this part, I have get the details which I want to get the students details from this student table, and I have joined the exam mark record table and the subject table, exam term table, and the exam term table for the student table. And I have added some conditions. The first one is exam date should equal to this, and the subject is mathematics, and the mark should equal to the mark which is coming from this query. The mark should equal to the mark which is coming from this query. So in this part, I have calculated the mark. I have calculated the minimum mark, and it should equal to the mark in this part. Now I'm going to run this. So here you can see this is the detail of the student who get the least mark for the mathematics subject in the second term examinations. So here's the query for the fifth question. So today I have discussed the question set 23. So thank you everyone for listening.